After 48 years of life, I've discovered the origin of pet peeves, and it's birthdays. It's like every candle is either the strengthening or the addition to another pet peeve. And every time you got to blow out those flames, it's like you're just fanning the flames of your own pet peeves. And the pet peeve I want to talk about today, because I have many, is driving. And primarily how other people drive just drives me insane. Last weekend, I'm coming over through Eisenhower Tunnel on the way down into Frisco. My brother-in-law, Doug, is driving. He has a gold Toyota Tundra with a V8 in it that he drives with a vengeance. 1 foot in the gas tank and then a club on the brake. And we're coming down, and Eisenhower is like a toboggan run that people take as a challenge. And Doug is no different. We're flying down this pass, and we're coming up on traffic, and I'm sitting in the front seat, and I'm just bracing myself for the adventure. And then at the very last minute, Doug does what so many people do. He just crushes on that brake and turns me into a science experiment because my butt lifts out of the seat, and for a moment the harness holds me and I'm suspended like an astronaut in midair. And I look over at Doug, I'm like, dude, do you hate your brakes or something? He said, no, I just got new rotors. I said, well, it looks like you're trying to break those as well. Another friend of mine, Stephanie, the multitasker, had, past tense, a beautiful silver convertible Toyota. After a very short period of time of just bad driving, we started calling it Old Tinny. And Stephanie would multitask. She'd be putting on her makeup, she'd be smoking a cigarette, she'd be on the cell phone, she'd be driving with her knees and just running over the most random things. And it reminds me of that joke of my grandfather died peacefully in his sleep. I can't say the same for the passengers in his car, because there's a moment, a matter of time before she would have killed any of us. And if you're that driver that slows down before you get to the green light and then holds your brakes through the green light, know that I'm behind you, yelling and screaming and gnawing on my steering wheel. The other thing I've also learned is oftentimes what bothers us as a pet peeve is most likely inherent to us as well. It applies. I have a confession to make. I'm a terrible driver, according to my mother and my wife. My mother, I remember when I started driving, she would sit next to me, she would clutch her purse with all of her life's belongings in it, hand on the door, other hand poised, ready to open the door, as if I were to make contact with something. She would bound out at the last minute and save herself. You know the whole adage of if the elevator drops, you should jump before it ends up hitting the bottom floor and you'll survive. She would also, with both feet, hit the imaginary brake. And I can sympathize with her. I'm sure we all start out as terrible drivers, but I consider myself a good driver now. Unless you talk to my wife, who calls me when I have my rages, Mr. Wheeler. Now, Mr. Wheeler is the alter ego of Goofy in a 1950 cartoon that came out called Motor Mania. If you haven't seen it, you gotta check it out. He's got two personalities. One is Mr. Walker, and the other one's Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Walker is as nice as can be and shakes your hand. He'll take his jacket off and lay in the puddle so the ladies can walk across. But Mr. Wheeler, he just becomes, so aggressive and so angry, which is what I do. Mainly because I drive a Prius, which I'm not sure if that says a lot about my personality, but I am a slave to the teat of aerodynamics. My car has no balls. I just have to plan for what is possibly coming up ahead. And to my wife, that tailgating makes her sound like she's anime. You know, she's all, It makes me laugh. To this day, I've never rear-ended someone, but there's always room for that. But you know what, though? I truly believe that the problem isn't the late breakers or the multitaskers or the eunuch of automobiles, which is the Prius. It's independent thought and it's independent choice. That's the problem with driving. We all have our own ideas, and I believe that we're all acting with the best of intentions. But none of it is coordinated. We're not coming together. We're all sitting in our own little bubbles of metal and steel, making decisions. And what frightens me is that the majority of the people on the street that are driving out there today are afraid to be there or overconfident to be there. And that is really dangerous. For me, I am really looking forward to the day of full automation. Bring it on, baby. Oh, give me full automation or give me death. And I'll probably kill myself driving before that ever comes along. But here's the thing with full automation. And it's not the go-to of, oh, I can sit and be on my phone the whole time and I can eat a cheeseburger while I get, ushered around by artificial intelligence. For me, that is not what I'm most excited about. This is what I'm most excited about. Stoplights, okay? We put men on the moon. Planes have been flying autonomously for years. SpaceX just launched, right? Fully automated from launch to docking. Not a man touched it. But yet, in our society, stoplights act autonomously and with vindication, because you approach up to the green light and suddenly it turns red. And this is when I chew my steering wheel. It's when that light turns red and I stop because the law says so. And then not a single car comes across. It grinds my gears. So pray for full automation so all of us can stop being Mr. Wheeler and be more like Mr. Walker.